Why should it be offensive for Meghan to say anti-Blackness is so nasty, so virulent that I got the Black woman treatment just because people were so disgusted by the potential tainting of this centuries-old monarchy? That's the right answer. Hey, y'all. How are you doing? I'm great. Thank you so much for asking. It's me, Kim, and I'm back. We got to talk about this Meghan Markle podcast. I was not excited at all for the Meghan Markle podcast because it was just going to be another one of those silly little celebrity interview podcasts. Not interesting, so dull, so lifeless. But I was wrong. Meghan shut my mouth wide open because I listened to the first 2 episodes of her podcast called Archetypes, and they're good. They're interesting, well-produced. I like her voice a lot. I think she asks good questions. I definitely underestimated her. I thought that this was going to be another Obama vanity project, and it's good content. And that good content has led to a few days of big headlines because Meghan sat on Zoom with Mariah Carey, and they talked about being biracial. So before we dig into that, I want to give an overview of the podcast. The whole point of it, the hook is that she is running down the labels and tropes that try to hold women back. So the first one was Serena Williams, who they've been friends for a while. Serena was at the wedding. Serena Williams was ambition. And then the second one was Mariah Carey, and they were talking about this idea of diva. I even think that's good. That's an interesting concept. Mariah Carey is, a biracial angel, right? Like a paragon, the biracial woman paragon, right? Meghan is saying to Mariah, oh my God, when I saw you, the heavens opened up. I felt so seen. I felt so represented. This is the first time I ever saw somebody that I wanted to be like, and you're cool, and I wanted to be cool, and I wanted to dress like you. And yes, representation matters. There's a lot of stuff in here that's easy to clip out, but actually in context, it makes perfect sense. One thing that really came out for me when Meghan was talking to Mariah, I have said before, do not front on Mariah. She's kind of like the camp queen now. She's dived into being over the top and opulent and funny. But Mariah Carey is a very serious musician and was for over a decade like the pop superstar. Mariah, Celine, Whitney, okay? And so in hearing them reflect on Mariah's early career, it's like, oh yeah, this woman was it. She was it, okay? Don't you ever freaking forget it. They're talking about Mariah navigating the music industry as this biracial woman, but also as a woman who has developed this big reputation for only like me on the correct side. And, of course, the iconic MTV Cribs episode they brought up. Oh, wait, we have to bring up Cribs.
Theme for the room, it's like a pale blue under the sea type thing. This room is really supposed to be seen only at night, because if you see it during the day, you kind of think I might have been on something when I decided to do it in this color scheme. But at night, it looks really pretty, and it's just like a very calming room, and people say it's one of their favorite rooms in the house.
Also, Mariah giving us influencer core 20 years before the influencer core blows up, right? Everything monochromatic, everything neutral. Okay. We love a visionary.
Dye up, but I can't get my gloves on right now because I don't have anyone to help me do it. So I can stand here, look at New York, things of that nature, all the while in my 4-inch heels and the black ensemble.
I'm sorry, it doesn't get Mariah on the Stairmaster in heels? First of all, I love Mariah's construction of herself as opulent, glamorous, queen, funny, campy. She knows exactly what she's doing all the time, getting on the Stairmaster in that black mini dress and the heels. I live for that. Somebody who knows how to be famous. Yes, girl, this is a job. Give us what we want. Loved that. In that conversation, there's a couple of things that surprised me. I don't know why I was surprised by this because we've seen Meghan's mother. They were talking about their hair and we can see Meghan as a child and she has really, thick black curly hair. And she's like, I'm tender-headed. I couldn't be tender-headed because my grandma used to do my hair. And, I remember the smell of Murray's and pink lotion, and they used to try to put that on my hair, and it didn't work on my hair. So I think it's important to bring these pictures because this is not giving white child to me. I am not super interested in debating whether or not this picture gives white child. It's not giving white child to me. Obviously, this is big curly hair, pre-nose job. The part of the interview that got the most headlines was about the unique set of privileges that she generally is able to access in the world and how those privileges were yanked from her when she dared to marry a member of the British royal family and have his baby.
I think for us, it's so different because we're light-skinned. You're not treated as a Black woman. You're not treated as a white woman. You sort of fit in between. I mean, if there's any time in my life that it's been more focused on my race, it's only once I started dating my husband. Then I started to understand what it was like to be treated like a Black woman, because up until then I had been treated like a mixed woman. And things really shifted.
She was saying that because she and Mariah have lighter skin, she did use the term, because we are lighter skinned, we get special kinds of privileges. And we are treated a different way than somebody like Halle Berry, literally comparing her biracial experience to Halle Berry's biracial experience and saying Halle Berry has said that because she has darker skin, and, Halle Berry also has had a nose job. So pre-nose job, Halle Berry, when she moves through the world, is going to be treated a lot differently than Meghan, even with her, kinky curly hair, or a Mariah who, is... What's the issue? What is the issue? Don Lemon came out, let's see, response to Meghan Markle.
Essentially, what she is coming from is a place of privilege where she did not have to deal with racism until she married a white man, and she's got all this criticism and all this attention, and suddenly she understood or understands what it's like to be part of a group of people who are discriminated against. It is a bit shocking that at 30-some years of age, she is just understanding what it's like to be a Black woman in America. It's a bit surprising to me.
What? I've heard Meghan Markle say repeatedly, I'm a mixed woman, I'm a woman of color, but that is not the same as saying that I've never experienced racism. Where are you getting that from? I actually think that a lot of this hubbub around the Meghan Markle excerpt, this discussion around the clip and the fake outrage in the conversation, is a byproduct of soundbite culture. I really do think that people are engaging with this completely divorced from the context. Because what is the problem? Because you're not going to tell me that kid with that hair and that nose is really going to say that she never experienced racism. It's just not a possibility. Now, it is important, and actually what we need mixed women to do all the time is say, yes, I am biracial, I am half Black, and because people know who my mother is, because I have features associated with Blackness, I have experienced anti-Blackness, but what I have experienced is nothing compared to what women who look like my mother experience. And even Doria, lighter skinned. It's nothing compared to what Serena Williams has experienced. That's an important conversation. But that is not the same as, I've never experienced, until I married into, that's not the same. But also, on the other side, on the Black woman side, why are we trying to force this woman to claim an experience that she hasn't had? That's weird. We know that even, let's take it to the non-biracial context. Is Beyonce getting treated the same as Kelly? No. So why should it be strange or offensive for Meghan to say, I am not treated the same as a Black woman, and I got the Black woman treatment because anti-Blackness is so nasty, so virulent, that I got the Black woman treatment just because people were so disgusted by the potential tainting of this centuries-old monarchy. That's the right answer. Ding, ding, ding. You're right. So I do think, I mean, look, I've seen people say, oh, well, she should have worded it differently. Why do we need these women to do all of that hedging around their experience? I'm fine with the biracial tears support group. I'm fine with that, right? Acknowledge your privilege, acknowledge structural inequity, and y'all can come together and commiserate over your tragicness. The same way, I don't care about beautiful women, women who are traditionally attractive at the top of the beauty hierarchy coming together to talk about, oh, I hate being objectified. And no matter, y'all do that. Acknowledge the privilege, acknowledge you would never want to wake up and be ugly. But there's some unique stuff that y'all get. Okay. I don't have a problem with rich women coming together to talk about, oh, as a rich Black woman, right? Whatever. It's just another vector of inequality. So what? That should not trigger any insecurity. It should not trigger any strong emotion. Detach yourself from that. I think that a lot of Black women are very sensitive to mixed race women, biracial women coming together to commiserate over biracial tears, because we think, oh, you're othering yourself from us, okay? You're different. I can totally acknowledge the fact that, yes, mixed race women, biracial women, especially mixed with Black, right? Because Meghan Markle is Black, but she is biracial and Black, because biracial doesn't tell us anything except mixture. We also have to make sure to add in the Black part, because it's the anti-Blackness that is structuring how people relate to her, the kind of nastiness that she gets. We all know your mama's Black. People have all of this anti-Blackness, creeping up from hundreds of years or whatever. As long as you acknowledge all of the good stuff that comes with it, how people look to you first, how people fetishize you, objectify you, put you up on a pedestal, how that opens doors. How would you even really get a first date with Harry if not looking the way that you look? Would you even have any kind of Hollywood career if you don't look that way? We should be okay and invested in that kind of truth-telling from mixed race women and not take it as a slight. Why don't you want to sit by me? You don't want to sit at my table anymore? Okay. The rest of the Halle Berry thought was her talking to Mariah and saying, even as biracial people, the level of privilege that we're able to access differs so much based on our phenotype, how we show up in the world, the color of our skin, and the texture of our hair. So we move through the world differently, and we get absorbed and we get interacted with differently than somebody like a Halle Berry, who has said over and over again that the world sees me as Black, so I'm Black. Good point. Fair. Okay. Come on. I just think some of this stuff is just really goofy. It's important for her to have this conversation, one, because of all of the scholarship around it. I do think that when we have conversations about mixed race privilege and, the differences between the experience of a mixed race person, no matter their skin tone, and somebody who has two Black parents, often it's thoughts and feelings and whatever. But there is lots of discussion around actual real life outcomes stuff. So I remember years ago, a sociologist named Robert Rees, he had a paper that said, just saying that you're mixed race makes people view you more favorably. It's just the exoticness of it. People like that. People are drawn to it. That's privilege. Of course, we also have all of the skin color scholarship that comes from people like my former professor, Jennifer Hochschild, who has been studying, she called it the skin color paradox, right? Before we were using colorism, literally since the 70s. The differences in life outcomes between Black people who are light-skinned and Black people who are dark-skinned. And no, of course, in that research, we are not disaggregating how many Black parents you have, because honestly, this mixed race identity to the forefront thing is new. It's modern. And of course, we have, a scholar like Ellis Monk, who has done lots of work around this in the United States and Brazil. Gosh, I just recently read a paper by, what is her name? Oh, her name is Tisha Dupree Wilson, who talks about intra-racial color discrimination, the ways that within Black communities, people with light skin and features more closely associated with whiteness get treated better in Black communities. But, you know, Meghan Markle is not a sociologist. She's not an anthropologist. She's not a scholar. She's talking to another mixed woman about her experience. And maybe it wasn't the exact way that you wanted it to word it, but she is right. I also think, you know, the conversations about who is or isn't white passing are so boring to me. I don't even want to participate in them. I don't. That's why I don't really want to be going back and forth with people about it. I think it's silly, you know, just as silly as I think most cultural appropriation conversations are, because the boundaries around race are so arbitrary. They're so incoherent and nonsensical. They differ so much from person to person, region to region, country to country, time to time, that us really sitting on the internet arguing back and forth with each other about, oh, she is and she isn't and she looks this and she looks that, for what? But what is at the forefront of my mind now, because I just got done rereading Cedric Robinson's Black Marxism, I'm more interested in the concept of racialization and how the process of racialization puts some people here and some people here and some people at the top and some people at the bottom. Now that process, there's lots of different things, lots of different variables involved in that process. But arguing about the boundaries, I'm just not, it's a waste of time. You know, how racialization functions is much more interesting. But also because race is intentionally created to be slippery. Like, that's the function, to keep us tripping up over it and like, oh, is that the boundary and that the boundary? Like, really, it's like, the arbitrariness is the point. I guess my final thoughts on this are, I appreciate her for not saying any goofy shit on that podcast. Shout out to both of them. They both know better. It's very clear Meghan has a Black mother. She, you know, knows the buzzwords, raised by a Black mother, Black grandmother. She gets it. And, you know, Mariah Carey has hung out with some Black people for so long that she gets it, despite the fact that she has a white mother. And the other thing I wanted to say, it's a little bit generational. And also it's about like, how much do you use the internet? Because I definitely think that like people who are like 40 and over for sure are going to expect, and this is what Mariah in particular was talking about.
I always thought it should be okay to say I'm mixed. Like, it should be okay to say that, but people want you to choose.
Yes.
Is like, oh, I don't like being asked to choose. People expect me to just say Black and not the other thing. Older Black people for sure, sorry Gen X, but y'all do be doing this. Y'all do be doing this, Gen X and the boomers and above, do have a thing about say you're Black. You're Black. You're Black and you're over here. You know? Like, okay. But Mariah is right. And then, you know, the Gen Xers and above who are extremely online are more in tune with the conversations around the importance of acknowledging the unique experience that a mixed identity confers onto you. You know, and by the way, I have certain kinds of privileges. Like, most of us have access to certain kinds of privileges that structure or mediate our experience of womanhood differently. And you want to talk to people who can recognize your privilege sometimes. You know, I don't know. I just feel like, girl, every conversation is not your conversation. It's fine. Something that I can say is I do not relate at all to the biracial woman's plight of not knowing where I fit in. That is like a thing that comes up over and over again with the biracial people. I was too something for this and I was too something for this and I didn't know, and I was going back and forth and I didn't know, and my mom didn't know how to do my hair. I actually consider it to be an enormous blessing, a measure of great fortune that I never, with regard to my racial identity, was like, am I Black or am I? No, I always knew. Now, of course, in the world, you know, in a white supremacist world, when you always know, it's always a great thing. Okay. So yes, when you are ambiguous, you get to jump in and jump out, right? But there is something about the stability of my identity that brings me great comfort. I'm glad I don't have to do all that Picola shit, you know? That imitation of life shit. No, I have other traumas. Thank you. So yeah, that's why it's great to be a Black woman with 2 Black parents. How do you feel about the monoracial? I don't even use the word monoracial, but how do you feel about the Black people who grew up in white spaces getting their racial identity invalidated? Black people asking them why they talk or act a certain way. As a Black person who speaks like this and likes, you know, all of the shit that I like, I think that that stuff is not about racial identity. It is about cultural identity. And we often invert those two things. We use them interchangeably, but there's no Black person in the world who I'm going to sit down next to and they're going to say, you're not Black. If they say to me, you're not Black, they're talking about what they believe is my engagement with the culture. It's different. And so that's why these conversations about, you know, acting white and white passing and whatever, they get so muddled because we're using the same verbiage to talk about so many different things. I've never encountered a Black person who said, hey, what are you? No, or a white person or an Asian person, right?